Hello and welcome to another Thursday here on Viking.TV with me, Anne Diamond. And this week, as I'm sure you already know, we are talking architecture. So I thought we could use that as an excuse to talk about the architectural style and design of the ships of which Viking is so proud, and which continues, of course, to win industry awards. So in a few moments, we will meet Viking's lead designer, a man who started, like so many engineers and architects and designers, building things out of Lego when he was a boy, but who went on to build a career in interior design. And when he was asked to take on a new project for Viking river cruises to design the new fleet of longships, he'd never actually been on a cruise ship in his life. He's been on a few since. If you, like me, love some of the special places on board and absolutely adore the feel of a Viking ship, you'll want to thank this man. If you're a regular viewer of Viking.TV, you'll have already met him when he was in conversation with Alistair Miller, talking about the design of the new Mississippi ship. But now, let's talk about two of Viking's newest ships, which will have the same familiar design feel, but be subtly different because they have an altogether different job to do. They are the Viking Octantis and the Viking Polaris. Now, the Octantis is going to be delivered in December, well, any minute now, I suppose, and will then sail down to South America in January, ready for her first Antarctic season. Sister ship Viking Polaris will join the fleet in the summer of 2022. Well, as you can imagine, Viking's engineers and architects and designers have been working on these for a long time now, through all of the various stages that bring a ship from the drawing board to its ultimate destination. Every step of the way, that's been guided by Chairman Torsten Hagen, whose vision and determined attention to detail has already made Viking a regular champion in the worldwide cruise industry. The ship's designs are also more than mindful of the precious environments that they're going to visit. So, for instance, their fuel efficiency exceeds regulations. There's zero emissions waste treatment. Boggles the mind, doesn't it? Quiet ship propulsion, minimizing underwater noise pollution. Special lighting that stops birds from being attracted to the onboard lights. And they'll also operate at what they call whale-safe speeds to prevent whale collisions. Weather balloons for scientific work. Shore power allows them to run on electricity whilst in port, and strict biosecurity. And would you believe they've even thought of special boot washing machines that ensure no contamination of those amazing environments with anything that doesn't actually belong there. They're going to be amazing ships carrying something like 378 lucky passengers on dream expeditions. But when they're on board, that experience has to be dreamy too, and that is where my guest Richard comes in. So let us welcome him now from his studio in Los Angeles. Richard Riveire, hello, and it's lovely to meet you at last.
And good evening. It's lovely. Well, good evening for where you are. Good morning here in Los Angeles, and it is a great pleasure to be with you. And that was a lovely introduction, by the way. Thank you. And all true. So.
Well, I feel I know you already because, and I think anyone would who's already been on a Viking ship, because the atmosphere is created by the design and the feel is both homely. You feel as though you're coming home when you walk on board a ship, but you feel familiar with it. And yet it's also calming and wonderful. Is it true that before you took on the river ship that I was talking about, you'd never actually been on a cruise ship before?
This is, at this point, I think, a fairly famous story, but when Torsten called me to come meet him for the very first time, this was literally the first words out of my mouth as I said, you know, please understand, I've never been on a cruise in my life. I've never been on a cruise ship in my life. And he says, no, I want a hotel guy. I want somebody that really understands how to make an environment that is, in fact, comfortable and supportive and exciting and interesting and all the things that hotels do. We want that on our ships. And it was a brilliant concept. And I'm not saying that in a self-serving way because it ended up as me, but it was brilliant in that it was different than really what had been done in the cruise industry before. And I think it's been wildly successful.
I've had a little speech from him as well about things like that, because he said, I remember one of the first times I ever met him, he said, you know, Anne, I've spent my whole life in hotel rooms. And
Hmm.
so he has
Yes.
a very distinct idea of what he finds relaxing and good design and what he
Yes.
really hates. So you must have had very interesting conversations in the beginning.
Well, this is exactly right. And in thinking about it, when you start to design a product that becomes a brand, and that's in fact what's happened here, is we started with an idea that grew into all these different ships around and different ship types around the world. It really has to be based on a brand idea. And because this was a very new thought, it's the first new ocean cruise line in 30 years when the Star was introduced. I really thought that the best thing to do was to make it personal to Tor as a hotelier. He doesn't like that. He calls himself a financier, but I tend to think he's a very great hotelier. But he is personalizing it in that way, gets a connection to our guests. He's obviously Scandinavian, he's Norwegian, he appreciates good modern design, he appreciates comfort, he appreciates practicality and elegance. All of those things come out of his personality and they go right into the design process, right into the overall look of what our ships are. So as you're walking through the ship, it very much is a vision of Torsten and in the way he perceives and wants to present his company and his line. And it's very, very different than what we would do for a Four Seasons or a Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah, I guess, but I mean, if that's your commission, you're working to that commission. But it must have been a wonderful commission to get. You must have been over the moon.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the great aspirations for every architect is to be involved in creating this thing that's not just a singular object, but becomes many different things. And you start to spin out variations and variations and variations. I thought you expressed it very well in the introduction when you said, well, this ship has a different job to do. And so therefore it has a different look, but it lives as part of this overall brand experience that we've developed. So the Nile is very, very different than the Mississippi, which is different than the Longships and different than the Star class ocean ships. And this one as well, but they all live as a family. They all have this same basic concept of how they're put together, what the brand is like. And in fact, if I can take a moment here, I think I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. That the Viking brand is really built on 5 ideas. There's obviously the concept of our Nordic heritage, the Scandinavian look that pervades through everything, and that includes everything from the Vikings, all of the Viking era, all the way through the arts and crafts of today. So anything in the Nordic world comes in. The idea of residential modernism, very much what Torstein is like, is simple, elegant, clean, beautiful, modern spaces without a lot of the frou-frou that you might find on other ships. The idea of craft, of things that come together as a handmade world as opposed to just machinery is the idea. The idea of nature, which we'll talk about here in a minute, I'm sure, and the idea of exploring the world in comfort, which when I first started talking with Tor and we were talking about them and what they were like and the type of company that Tor was trying to put together, that tagline, which sounds like it's advertising or whatever, I took it very, very seriously. Really thinking about this is a chance to really think architecturally about something where you have 2 things that don't normally go together: exploration and comfort, not always in the same sentence, right? So that creates a little bit of visual tension between there, and that creates a lot of opportunities for architects. It's a little speech there. I'm sorry, but I think but as you look at all the ships, that's why they hang together. They're all part of those 5 ideas.
Yeah, and I just find it so interesting as well because obviously before that you'd come from a background of working with big 5-star hotels. So if you were commissioned to design for a hotel in Paris, you would probably want to make something of Paris in that, or Moscow or whatever. But a cruise ship travels with you. And it needs to feel like home from wherever you've been, even if you've been on the riverbanks of the Nile and you're hot and sweaty when you come in from a day looking at temples, or when you've been out looking at polar bears in the Arctic. When you get back on the ship, it has to feel like home, and you have to have special places you want to go to.
Mhm. You know, and you've pinned it exactly right. And that was the thought about thinking about, you know, personalizing the ship to Torstein is, as I sometimes refer to it, it's the sorbet, right? You've gone through all these lovely experiences, you've had these lovely courses of dinner, and whether it's been easy or hard or exciting or whatever, it is something, you know, experiences. And to be able to reflect on that, to be able to sort of capture that as a memory, you need to have that little bit of a chance to sit back and relax. That's why I kind of rebel against the idea of resort architecture as entertainment, which you found a lot 10, 20 years ago. A lot of people were doing that type of thing. But in putting Viking cruises together, it was very much that idea of this is a place you come back, it's beautiful, it's restful, it's home. It still has elements of surprise and delight because that's what hotels do. But it also has to give you a chance to reflect and sort of absorb what it is that you've seen all day and be prepared for seeing something completely different, you know, tomorrow. Being able to rest and recharge a little bit is the answer. So as you go, that goes through so much of how the designs of the ships work. I think one of the things that people comment on a lot that's directly relevant here is the fact that you can find places to scroll yourself away. I get this comment all the time on Cruise Critic where people will say, oh, well, I like to tuck away and read a book and there's so many places I could go and I don't feel like I'm with a million other people. And that is absolutely deliberate, absolutely part of the same process of thinking about a space in a way that allows you to absorb, to relax, to comfort, and to be able to explore, to be able to go out and do all the things that we're going to offer you the chance to go do.
My sisters and I were just recently aboard a Mediterranean cruise on the Venus, and we were on one of the places we were allowed out, and we could do independent walking around and shopping, you know, like in the olden days, and it was wonderful. But our feet were tired, we were very, very hot, and as we were walking back towards the ship and clambering on board, what did we all say to each other? But why don't we go and have a cocktail in our favorite place on the so-and-so? And we knew exactly where we were going and we knew exactly how it would feel. And that was the sort of welcome home feeling. But that's the aesthetic. What stage do you get involved? I mean, for instance, if we look at the Octantis, have you been on board it yet? Or is it all drawing boards to you?
Well, the answer to have I been on board yet? No. And this is, I think, one of the great regrets of the time that we're sort of living through right now, is that I'm doing it all via this. You know, it all happens via Zoom and GoToMeeting and Teams and all of those things that we're all so used to using at this point. But the bigger answer to your question, I love those introductory videos because there were photographs of the whole team there in lots of locations. So lots of views of the conference room in Basel and shipyard in Ancona and all kinds of places. But early on is the answer to your question. We start at the beginning. It is a large group of people that we're talking about, thinking about, and really working through not only these big ideas, the big concepts that sort of drive everything, but also down to every single little detail. And I like being part of all of it. And quite honestly, the parts that I find most helpful are the discussions that we have about the expeditions, about the shore excursions, about the things that our guests are doing, what that experience is like, then drives a little bit about what we do. It really causes us to think about what is the guest feeling, what are they experiencing, what are they going through, and what should the reaction to that be. And that really shapes the spaces. So all the way through the whole process, we start very, very early on when the plans are just being developed by the shipyard. We're involved in that side. And then at the very end, those last few days we were working on books to be placed in the Octantis cabins. So it's down to every detail that you look at, everything that you touch and feel and see is something that we've thought about for the maximum effect and maximum practicality to the guest, things that you'll want to be involved with and see.
I can only imagine your frustration at not actually being able to get your hands Octantis at the moment. But we saw a few minutes ago how the planning started. So let's move on now to the next stage of the rollout, construction in the Mediterranean, and then of course the first voyage to the outfitters in Norway. So let's have a look at this bit of video now with commentary from Karina Hagen.
Construction begins with the ceremonial first cutting of steel at the shipyard. The next major milestone is the keel laying. This marks the initial joining of modular components. It's celebrated with an age-old tradition and a coin from the ship's owner. The coin is meant to bring good fortune when it's welded to the vessel. This is recognized as the moment the ship comes to life. What follows is nothing short of remarkable. After months of shaping and fitting steel, our innovative expedition ship is moved to a submersible platform, so she can touch water for the very first time. This centuries-old process is known as the float-out. It's a methodical undertaking that takes nearly 2 full days to complete. From stem to stern, every joint, weld and system are thoroughly checked to ensure everything is ready for the next step in the process of building our expedition ship. And that step is a big one. We actually move the hull from the European shipyard all the way to Norway for completion. This fascinating journey begins with powerful tugs gently guiding the hull down a narrow channel through the Danube Delta. It's a challenging start to the 21-day, 7,765-kilometer voyage. Along this slender waterway, there's simply no room for error, as our expedition ship makes its way toward the first significant milestone: the open, mythical waters of the Black Sea.
Oh, Richard, aren't you dying to get on board?
Oh, so much. It is so exciting to see these things become a reality.
Yeah.
And those images are just stirring. It's just stirring.
You've often described your job as being a storyteller. So what's the story to tell of these 2 amazing expedition ships?
You know, that's exactly right. I think that spaces do well when there is some, sometimes hidden, but sometimes, fairly apparent story behind how they're all kind of going together. And I've got a little story for you, if I may. When I started thinking about the ship, and we started looking at what are the itineraries, how does it go? It doesn't just do Antarctica. It does Antarctica during the Southern Hemisphere summer, but it also does the Arctic regions and the Great Lake regions in the Northern Hemisphere summer. And it through one of those strange little happenstances of life, I came across this guy. And so this little fellow is an Arctic tern. And an Arctic tern, really fascinating little bird, because he does exactly the same path as our ships do. His migratory path is the longest route of any animal on the planet. He goes something over 6,000 miles each way, going from summer in the Northern Hemisphere to summer in the Southern Hemisphere, and then back again. So he goes back and forth and back and forth. And so I thought, well, gosh, this is exactly the same as our ships do. And it's really interesting to start thinking about, because if you go from there, the ocean ships primarily go to urban environments, right? You're going to the world capitals, you're in Sydney, you're in London, you're wherever, but they're primarily going to urban environments, although there's certainly lovely natural environments that the Star class does. But this ship does set in reverse. You're going to go to Toronto and you may see, one of the world's great urban environments, but primarily she's going to these natural parts. And I thought, oh, wait a second, nature's number 4 in my little list, right, of things that we talk about. So this ship is based on the idea of really taking the nature theme and expanding it out, making that the prominent element in terms of how we look at the design of the ship, the types of things that we go, and frankly, the idea of the perseverance of this little guy, and the fact that he does this, every year, twice a year, and really I found fascinating that he was out exploring. He's out going off looking at new things every time that he's going back and forth. He's got memory of all of those places. They know how to travel through these, through such quite a long distance. And I thought, well, here's a perfect archetype to think about our ship in a lot of different ways. So you're going to see my little friend here show up in various ways in the ship, sometimes very blatantly, and sometimes just in the fact of the beauty of his plumage and the sense of who he goes. And by the way, I should stop here and say that this little guy is made by an artist. Her name is Susan Beale, who lives in a farmhouse in Vermont, and the sort of the backwoods of Vermont, and it's made out of needle-tufted felt. And there is nothing more Norwegian than felt, right? As an idea. So no birds were harmed in the creating of my birds, but they are. In fact, thank you. You've got some views on the birds throughout the ship. And in fact, I'll if I can just go a little further here, Anne, to think that in our world of nature, our guests in some of these regions, the most prevalent animals that they see will be birds. And birds are, it's easy to tell the difference between a giraffe and a lion, but telling the difference between one penguin and another, kind of a hard thing to do. So our expedition central space will include these little felt guys, created life-size scale reproductions of the 12 most common birds that you're likely to see on your voyage. And then you could not only understand them and look at them, maybe learn a little bit about them, but also working with a resident photographer, you could get a chance to figure out how do you best photograph them? What is it that you're, how do you look at them and see? So anyway, when you get out on your excursions and you see a bald eagle, you can recognize them and all the rest. It's really quite fascinating. So a little shout out to my friend Susan for creating all that.
Well, yeah, and that again is part of your job. You're a designer, but you also have to take into account the people for whom you are designing. And I don't just mean Viking and Mr. Hagen. I mean the people who are going to enjoy your designs are what Torstein Hagen loves to call curious passengers. They're people who haven't given up on learning, no matter their age. They love to know about the world around them. And so you're providing that story. I didn't know that story. They might not know that story. You're providing that story, but in an art and design way.
Yes, that's so correct. And to be, vacations, holidays are meant for many things, right? It's a chance to recharge. And part of that is, in fact, having the lovely glass of wine in the Explorer's Lounge. That is certainly a big part of it for me. Lying by the pool, all that kind of stuff, that's correct. But I think also it's doing things that you don't do every day and being exposed to things that you don't see every day and being able to recharge that way as well, is starting to think about learning about something, and not in a way that's boring or that, sitting in a classroom or something of that nature, but just being exposed to things and letting the curious mind come out. Say, really, what is it? What is up with the birds? Let's go look at the birds, right? That little bit of curiosity, and if we provide it to you in a way that is very hospitality-like, very, very, surprising and delightful ways, then that becomes fun. That becomes part of the experience, and it is so much a part about what Viking is all about. And obviously, that we try to present that to you in lots of different ways. I
have to tell you that. I mean, that is so true, not just of me and my sisters who've been on a couple of cruises. We spend so much time thinking, that's a good idea. I could do that in my living room and taking a picture of it. Or a table with the most beautiful wooden fretwork or something. Take a picture of that. So let's have a look at
not to interrupt, but I have to tell you one of my favorite things. I get an email probably every week from a guest who says, I was just on this ship, and here's a picture of my wife sitting on this sofa. Where can I get the sofa?
Yes.
You know, and I cannot tell you how heartwarming that is, because I see the picture of his wife sitting there with her glass of wine on the feet up on the sofa and really enjoying her book, and I'm thinking, I win. This is correct. This is the way to go. And then she wants to bring it home.
Yes.
You know, there isn't a better compliment in the world to the way that all of us at Viking have done to put together something that becomes that kind of experience that you want to capture it and you want to bring it home with you.
Yes. Oh, there are several tables I would have brought home if I could. But that interests me as well, because your job as a designer is to create the idea, the vision, make it work. But that also means that you have to know where to get some of those visions. I mean, for instance, how did you discover Susan Beale?
Etsy, like everybody does these days, right? You know, I was Googling pictures of Arctic terns and thinking, what does this bird look like? And this little guy popped up, popped up on Etsy. And I said, oh, look, it's needle tufted felt. I can buy him. So I bought it. It's like everybody does, right? It's all the miracles of Google. But your inspiration comes from lots of places. And I think that's part of our task when we start these projects, is to do the research, is to really think about all the places that we're going. What are the experiences like? What is it like to go to Antarctica? I've never been to Antarctica. I don't know what it's like there, but there are lots of people who have, and lots of wonderful people. Will Liv Aronson, who is our godmother of Octantis. I have had a delightful series of conversations with her, because she absolutely understands what it's like to be in Antarctica and what that experience is like. All of those things, all of that research kind of comes together, and it comes out in things that you will see on board the ship, that they're one way or another are there for you, presented a way to make you feel you're part of the experience, and it's memorable.
I interviewed Liv a few months ago, and she knows what it's like to do those climates under a tent in freezing conditions, but she is so looking forward to doing it in comfort. Let's have a look at some of the pictures you sent me of the artwork for places that people might feel familiar with, but are slightly subtly changed for these particular ships.
That's exactly right. And so what you're seeing here is the Viking signature bar in the living room. So it looks different than the ones on the Longships or the ones on the Osiris or the Star class things. But a lot of the pieces are still there. Obviously, the idea of the clinker bar, that shipbuilding millwork concept for how the bars are shaped on every single ship in the fleet. The rosemaling embroidery on the chairs, literally rose painting done as embroidery onto the ships. The stools, those are on every ship as well. But then you see there are different things. There are things that are very much about this ship. I would say that Octantis and Polaris have. I don't want to say a little rougher character, because that's not the right word at all. But they are expedition ships. They are designed to feel as if you're going out to these very rare places, these once in a lifetime type experiences. So there are cues to that. That while you may walk through the ship and think a lot of it feels familiar, even if it doesn't look like the Star class. You can see there are lots of things about the Explorer's Lounge there that are familiar.
Yes.
The two-story, the beloved upper deck of the Viking Explorer's Lounge has definitely been preserved here. So as that place that you can go get away from. So that's still there, and things like that are still arranging. But notice there's a couple of other things that have happened here. The bar is now actually out into the space, and you can see here in the living room as well. It's very much more open. It's very much a central part of the space. The best part about Viking are the crew. The smiles that you get off of crew and the friendliness of it's just phenomenal how that happens. And so we're doing everything we can to make sure that we deconstruct any barriers between guests and crew. We want to keep those interactions moving. We want them to be able to have conversations and discuss and say, things like what's up with the birds. We want to give them the stories that they can then give to our guests.
And look at
Terrace. Oh, yeah, this is right outside the Aula Theater down, and is a beautiful outdoor space. And yes, it is designed for that environment, for a cold environment. So we have our lava rock fire pit across there, heated seats and heated floors across there, and of course Norwegian blankets. All are available, so you can have your hot chocolate and sit outside and be very, very comfortable, and yet look at this extraordinary landscape. And we're in the Great Lakes, and during the summer, same thing. It's going to be a lovely place for a glass of wine and see the outdoors. The cabins are probably the single most thing that people will think of as being different, being the same but yet different as an idea. And a good bit of it is this Nordic balcony concept that we have. If you'll notice, the windows on the right, full width, full height of the space, but they slide down so that you can really open up the whole sitting area right to the outside. So if you can imagine sitting here, on the 4th of July off of Chicago, watching the fireworks, what a lovely place to
goodness, I hadn't taken that in. Yeah. So you can open something up.
It's like your own outdoor terrace as an idea. So very, very comfortable place to sit, comfortable, almost separate, almost a suite, really, if you think about it. It's a very, very separate part of the cabin. And then, of course, the bookshelves. Books are very important to Viking. And we go through with Haywood Hill in London to select all the right things in the cabin. You can see, you will find books in the cabin that will be I promise, that will be of interest to you, and that will be very, very cool for looking while you're sitting in your Nordic balcony.
Oh yeah, no, the books on board is itself a whole new thing. I mean, you need to go there just to experience the books, but look at this theater.
Yeah, the Aula, as we call it. This is actually the University of Oslo. Those are Munch paintings that are in the actual Aula in Oslo, and we love them. We thought they were really, really amazing pieces. And so those screens all the way around are reproductions of what you would see if you were in Oslo. And then, of course, I'm letting secrets out here. I shouldn't, but those screens go up, and you can get that incredible view.
Because I can't get over that. But I just wondered also about the areas that are much more, I suppose, technical, engineer-based. For instance, the hangar areas where people will be able to get on board motorized dinghies and go out and explore. Those areas, for instance, I mean, did you have any hand in the design of those? Because they look space age.
Well, space age, maybe, I guess we'll see. Yes, no, we do. And in fact, that's one of our images that you're seeing across there. And yes, it is a little bit of trying to take what can be the most uncomfortable part of an exhibition, the idea of how do you board onto one of our ribs or one of the boats, or even you can see our submarine in the back there, our yellow submarine. It is I won't say that Torsten is a big Beatles fan, but it is a yellow submarine. But it's to take that point of uncertainty out of the process, take that bit of uncomfortableness out of the process. So it is very much set up in a way to make it easy to board, to board the craft. And then they sort of slide. Between you and me, I live in California, so Disneyland's a part of my life. It's a little bit.
I was going to say Disney, and I thought, will he feel offended?
It kind of is. I mean, I'm hesitant to even say this because it's a little too entertainment-like. But when you get on board the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, that's a very simple and easy process, and that's kind of what went through my head as I'm sitting here thinking, well, let's do it like they do it. Disney's figured out how to arrange a comfortable access onto a boat. And we'll do something kind of like that. And then the boat obviously launches right out the back of the ship. And it's really I'm anxious to see it. It's really quite spectacular.
Yeah, no, it looks really cool. Well, why don't we have a look then at just how that works? See, it makes it look so easy, doesn't it? But of course, there's no.
And it is, right? It is that simple.
It is for
It's
us.
exploring
Hopefully.
the world in comfort, right? We want to get you right to that point.
But an awful lot of thought and engineering and design has gone into making it look easy. As I said before, actually, Octantis sails down south to start her first Antarctic season, as they call it, in January. And it was a lovely moment for everyone in the Viking family to see her sail into Norway alongside sister ocean ships. It was a magnificent moment. Share in this.
Just past dawn. Her two ocean sisters, the Viking Star and the Viking Sea, sailed in perfect convoy a few hours in the Ionian Sea. Our first two ocean ships welcoming the Viking Octantis to the Viking family, while giving Chairman Torstein Hagen, myself and the rest of the expeditions team, including my Labrador Finse, who has the aft terrace named after her, a chance to observe the ship underway. It was a monumental moment, and one for the Viking history books. A glimpse at the exciting future ahead.
Oh, it's a wonderful moment. I keep sharing these personal moments with you, but I was on board the Venus not so long ago, and we saw the Viking Sea come into the same harbour area. And you feel so emotional looking out from one ship onto another. And I've had these letters and emails from many Viking people, guests who've been aboard, and they love the spaces aboard. And the first thing they say, as you've heard, as you've said to us, you get letters, is how can I recreate that at home? So I thought, Richard, I'd bore you with some of my favourite places on board, and then ask you, how do I create this at home? Right, or how do you create this, or how do you recreate these areas on board expedition ships? Because that, for instance, is the area where you have the infinity pool at the end of the ship, at the bow. Is that the area that you've turned into what we call now the Finse Terrace, where that the fire pit will be and everything?
No, that's we've got two now. If you think about it, this is really quite exciting to have the amount of outdoor space that we do have on the ship. But the Finse Terrace is down outside of the Aula Theater. But up top, we do have something that is kind of like what you've seen on the Star, but instead of one pool, there are now three. And we did them very deliberately in a way that they extend from indoors to the outdoors, so that if it's cold outside, you can still enjoy the pool. And the outdoor, there's two other pools that are sort of connected and sort of not, but it can be at different temperature ranges, so that you might have that opportunity of having a, hot tub type of experience, or a really warm experience sitting outside what Norwegians are very fond of. This as a varshap. The concept of a hot tub arrangement. We have that on board as well. But that's up high outside of the World Cafe, kind of like it is on the Star.
Oh, I love the sound of that. That's very Nordic, as you say. And other areas I love on board are the areas like we were saying earlier, where you think, I just love the Nordic spa. It's all that light. It's the wonderful use of light and glass to reflect light. Not everybody has an enormous lobby in their house with a grand piano in it. But isn't that interesting how the use of a focal piece of art can be so magnificent? And they're, of course, they're in the lovely upstairs area where you can get your afternoon tea, and a beautiful bit of Nordic art there as well. Beautiful ceilings. Are those still there in these ships?
In different forms. We have different things happening and you're giving away all my tricks, right? All the tricks of the trade. But all of the concepts you've talked about, certainly the quality of light is a very big part of what we do. And we start thinking about what surfaces are reflective, what surfaces need to be, a little darker in contrast, and all, so you create a balanced and harmonious whole. Artwork, of course, comes up in so many different ways, and there are some very interesting things being done with the art on this ship. So that's quite exciting, a place to go as well. So yes, we do take a residential approach very much to what we do, so that you can bring all of those things home with you in some sense or another.
The Finsa Terrace as well. I mean, Finsa is obviously, I think everybody now on Viking TV knows that that is Karina Hagen's beautiful Labrador, Finsa. It's got lots of storybooks about her, but seems to get her paw print on everywhere at the moment. And in fact, she literally has that, doesn't she?
Okay, I was going to have this as be one of those surprise elements, but that's okay. We'll let it out. Yes, it dawned on me when we were thinking about that little space there around the bed that wouldn't it? I mean, Finsa relates to two things, right? It's, to a certain extent, it relates to Finsa Plateau. It's that part of Norway that the early explorers used to train to figure out how to go through, the conditions in the Antarctic. So it is the most spectacularly beautiful scenery you will ever see. My favorite thing to do in the entire world is to take the train from Oslo to Bergen, which goes up over Finsa Plateau and then back down into Bergen. It's a spectacular ride. If you ever get the chance to do it, you should absolutely do it. So part of it was about that, and then back in the day, Finsa is Finsa. It's that I have two Labradors myself. My Labradors and Charlie and Finsa are all great friends, so have to do that. So I'm thinking okay, here we got our fire pit, we got it in, and we've got these tile all around it. What if there is a Native American tradition of coyote footprints in clay or in mud as being a signal of good luck and exploration and going off to new wilds and new wonders of things to see? So shouldn't we have Vince's paw prints sort of delicately slimping through a part of a corner off the Finsa Terrace there? So when you go on board, go look. Vince's paw prints are just to the right there. As you start to go up the steps, you'll see her actual paw prints.
Has that actually been done yet? Is it physically somewhere? Has Karina seen that yet?
I think she's seen an early sample. I don't think she's. I don't think that she's seen it for real. But I'm looking forward. It is as if Finsa just ran across when the cement was wet, as they say. But I like the fact that it's really about this idea of good luck on your journey, good luck on your exploration. That sense of memory that to my mind is so very, very important is kind of there. And it goes back to all of those things. And so Finsa's paw prints are really important.
Yeah, what I like about that too is it's a lovely story in itself, but it shows a reverence to nature, and that's again something that you wanted to run right through the theme of these ships. You sent us some lovely pictures of yourself at work with your Rottet Studio. Is that how I say it? Rottet?
It's Rottet is the right, exactly. There's our team. We in our office here. In fact, you can kind of see similar looks out the window to what you have behind me. But it is a big team with us, and I have to mention, of course, our sister firm, SMC Design in London. It's a partnership all the way. They understand shipbuilding and we understand hotels, so it is a great arrangement. Our samples, it's the world's largest samples library, given all the things that have to go into cruise ships and hotels and things. So I like this big table. And when we show materials to our clients, I do big pieces. We really want to be able to let our people get their head into the image, to think about what they're actually going to see, what is it really going to feel like. So I like lots of big pieces of things, and then we sort of play putting them together as a thing. So you'll see us working with fabrics and carpets and mood boards and imagery and thinking about, this is me before the COVID beard, but there you go anyway. So it is fun. It is fun to see. Mark Borkowski there in the background. A little shout out for Mark. He has been involved, I think, in every class of ship that we've done. One of the world's best technical guys. Really an amazing person in terms of getting all of these things built. And then you also can see right behind Jennifer there is what I call the Viking shop. Back in the back of our studio here is literally every cup and saucer, every salt and pepper shaker, all of our menus, blankets, pillows, It all sits back there so that we really understand what these pieces are and how they're going to factor into the overall look of the ship.
After this interview, you are going to get so many more letters saying, "Oh, I didn't know you actually knew."
But I want the teacup. The teacup looks fabulous.
That napkin ring or that glass or whatever, because everything is thought through, and that's what I find so fascinating, and I think a lot of people do, is that there's a reason for everything. It hasn't just happened there because somebody has, sold it to you. You've commissioned it for a reason. And that's what
much of it is custom design. Much of it really is we don't find the exact right piece that we're interested in. We'll just simply have it made.
Yeah.
And I think that is all about, it's when you're dealing with a real understandable brand like Viking is, any one element can take you out of the moment. It can take you out and say, wait a, it jars. And so we want to make sure that we're looking at all of the pieces, that as you pick up the napkin ring, as you get the bread out of the olive wood bread bowl that we have as a signature item, all of those things need to bring you back to, to where you are, and so that you don't ever get drawn out of the moment.
Yeah, everything has to be an experience, doesn't it? Everything. Even teaspoons. Things like that. Yeah, they matter, don't they?
They do.
Gosh. Like I said, you're going to get so many more requests. How did you do this? But let me go to the next bit of video about outfitting. We'll have a look at this, and if you can explain what's happening as we look, because the outfitting is where basically all your designs go into the ships, and when the ship arrives, suddenly, that's what's going to happen. The Octantis there being towed in to Norway, where the outfitting is going to happen. Is this where normally in a normal year you might actually get on board with a clip board in one hand and a hard hat? And
very much so. In fact, you can see not only our folks and the shipbuilding folks there installing all of the pieces. That is what we do. In this case, SMC is right there in London, and so they're able to deal with a lot of that. But yeah, we've been collecting bits through the entire process, and this is the stage in which everything comes together. It seems so odd that it takes years to get it to this point, but then it all comes together very, very quickly at the end here. So that's AC with iCard International, our art consultants there, going through with Corinna and talking about the various art pieces on board, corridor art across there, pieces that go. Polar bears. And Finsa and Charlie have to show up as well. These are you talk about curiosity and exploring the world. These dogs really, really, really do it. I love iCard Space in Oslo. It's a beautiful, beautiful studio, and they do such a great job at finding the right pieces. So yes, it's all coming together right now in Oslo. They're building. I was talking earlier about selecting books for cabins. That part of the process is underway right now. We're going through laying carpets and putting walls, finishes together and all the rest. But I promise you this, it will look like the renderings. That is, I'll never forget, the first time Torstein was on the Star, and I'm walking around through with him, and he says, "Gosh, it looks just like the renderings." And I said, "Well, yes, that's kind of the idea." We do use them as a tool, not only to get across the design ideas and to let our guests share in the experience before the ship's actually built, but we also use them as a tool so that everybody knows we're going toward a common goal. The ship outfitters, the furniture suppliers, they've all seen the renderings. That this is what we're trying to achieve. And so when you see it in real, it will look like what you expect.
Yeah, when I first saw the Viking Venus, I said, "Oh, it all looks so gorgeous and glamorous and shiny and new and beautiful." And Torstein said to me, "All our ships look like that."
All of the Star today looks shiny and new as well. And she's going on what 7-8 years, I think. So
yeah, but not old really at all.
Not at all.
Just a twinkle in your eye, really. I want to finish. We've got lots of other bits and pieces, but this video just shows the Aula theatre. Is it? Do you call it an Aula theatre? Yeah.
It's the Aula.
It opens up, and the way that one day people will be able to just walk out onto the Finsa terrace. It's just such a spanking, wonderful video that I thought everybody would enjoy seeing what seeing these amazing parts of the world could be like if you can do it in real luxury. Have a look at this. I mean, oh, that is just so beautiful. And as you say, it's going to happen. It will be like that. But as a designer, have you ever designed something that in the end, basically engineers and people say, that's impossible?
Oh, they say that all the time.
Oh.
I get that constantly, that you can't do that, or that's not the way it's done, or we've never done that on a ship. I mean, that's endless. I think part of my job is to be stubborn. You know, it's to start in a very nice way. I just keep asking questions, and I keep saying, well, what about this? Or how about that? Or what if we tried it this way? Or here's some other examples as an idea. And so we just keep working at it. And I think that's part of the Viking concept, the Viking aesthetic. And first of all, being curious, why can't we do this? Or is there a way that we can create what we want to create? And then just working with a shipyard that is really good at that. Both Fincantieri, who does the Star Class, and Vard, who does the expedition ships, are kind of the same company in a ways. But they are excellent about saying, okay, well, maybe, how about, and then we just work it. You just work it back and forth. I think where architecture and design can go so very wrong is if you just accept that, well, this is the way we've done it before and we're going to do it that way forever. And that way, that's not a very hotel thing to think about. That's not a very Viking thing to think about. We want to look at the ways that is, providing the correct experience for our guest in a right way. And if that means asking questions or creating new, this ship is filled with new stuff that hasn't ever been done before, but it's stuff that all makes absolute sense. It certainly works, so the shipyard wouldn't do it. So we just had to do the work, had to do the research, make the effort at it.
And what about working to a boss who is also a visionary and a designer, even though he might not call himself a designer, and that's Torstein Hagen? Because it brings me back to the little tern, the Arctic tern next to you. Didn't he want to do something about creating some sort of an amazing ceiling effect of flying terns or something like that?
Well, I think, Torstein's great for providing inspiration. He's coming up with what the well, we have these conversations, right? We talk about concepts. We talk about how, we want our guests to feel. We talk about the things that we expect them to do every day and what could come in there that's going to be a surprise or be a delight or something that will add or enrich the experience. We go through all of those things, and then we find ways to express it. And our little guy, the tern, does show up. He is going to show up in the ceiling, but he's going to show up in a slightly different way than the way that you see here. But you will get that sense that we're very true to our school. We're true to our understanding of nature and of craft and modernism, because those are in the Nordic heritage. Those are all what Torstein is, and that's where we're aiming to go. So we want to live within those bumpers and come up with ways that are going to be a wonderful experience for a guest to go through the process.
Okay, we've got some questions now. If you don't mind, we'll whiz through them because I know I'm keeping you a long time. Mark from West Virginia says, who decides on the names of places on board ships? Like Mamson's, I suppose, or the Finsa Terrace or whatever. Who decides on the names?
Well, as it's been said, the naming of things is a difficult matter. It's not one of your holiday games. A lot of thought goes into names, and like everything else on the ship, they tend to be very personal. They tend to be things that do reflect, the story behind it. Mamson's is the easy one. That's Tor's mother and Corinna's grandfather is Mamson, and that's because that space is about Nordic cooking, and it's about being in your mother's kitchen enjoying waffles. What is better on the ship than the waffles? I love the waffles, and that is a sense of home and a sense of being there. I mentioned the Aulas, the University of Oslo. So is things that have a relationship to what are the experiences that Torsten and Corinna have had, or that I've seen in one way or another. I like the idea of living room. The Viking living room, I think, came from me because it wanted that expression of saying, no, this isn't a lobby. This isn't a place that you're going to go with 500 other friends that you've just met. No, this is your living room. This is a place that you can sit and relax and enjoy and have a conversation with friends, whether they're old or whether you've just met them. But it's not a big giant space that is some impersonal hotel lobby. So every space really does talk about what it is that we sent, what it is that comes out of the brand, what is it that comes out of what we want our guests to be able to experience. So names are hard. We spend hours and hours and hours on names.
Right? Yeah, because it has to mean something to everybody, doesn't it?
It has to be correct, and we word
for a cup of coffee. You know exactly the experience you're going to have when you go there. Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. Blair in California says, is good design always expensive, or can it be cheap? For instance, what do you think as a designer of high street shops that sell flat pack furnishings and mass production design?
Absolutely. You know, good design is good design. And to my mind, good design is also affordable. That can be affordable for someone who's a college student, or it could be affordable for Bill Gates. And it's still affordable, and it's still good design if it's that. So to my mind, everything should have good design, and that should be affordable for its intended use. So whether it's, you know, product for your first flat after you're married, or if it's something where, you know, it's a very nice residence after you're more established in life, you still want to find those things that are going to surround you with beauty and with elegance and with things that bring you good feelings. And that's what design is about, is things that feel natural and authentic and bring you joy. And we try to do that in spades.
All right, this question comes from my son, who is a product designer, but a bit different, sort of different designer from you. But because I have an attic full of Lego upstairs of his, he is asking, is it true that you started your design career just by doing Lego at home?
Absolutely. No, I distinctly remember, I think it was 5. And it was my birthday, and my father, who was a general contractor, by the way, but my father came home with this bag of Legos, and he just dumped them out on the floor and started building with them. And oh yeah, I still have them at home. So the collection has grown somewhat, and I don't have quite the time that I used to have. But no, Legos are an amazing toy because they are something where the imagination is in here, right? You know, it's not created for you. You can build anything you want. You can create any environment you want. And I built castles, and I built stage sets, and I built theaters, and I built spaceships, and I built everything. And that's part of the joy, because it allows you to sort of open up that, you know, that creativity inside of you and just let you go free. And like, you can do anything with those things. You can literally make anything in the world you want to make.
Well, I tell you what, the way space tourism is going at the moment, you may well find yourself doing that in a few years' time. Yeah, who knows? Wouldn't that be exciting?
We can only hope.
But I think cruising and certainly expedition ships to the Arctic and Antarctic and Great Lakes is probably enough for now, isn't it? How exciting. When do you think you will be able to go out and actually set foot on one of those expedition ships yourself?
Oh, we have great hopes. I like to see everything as before our guests do. So let's see how all this works. Now, the world is opening up, and the vaccinations have certainly helped in that regard. And I'm anxious to come and see you, Anne, and all of my other friends. You know, that's been the real you know, one of the real tragedies of this time frame is I feel like all these people that I work with so closely, I only see them this way. You know, we don't get the opportunity to have the nice glass of wine after a hard day work in an outfitter shop or something of that nature. So we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to testing the experience. I'm very confident that it is that Octantis and Polaris are going to be amazing ships. They're going to work so very well. I know that's going to happen because we've spent literally years. I don't know if it's been 3 or 4 years that we've been working at this, but quite some time, and gone through all of it. I know it's going to be an amazing experience.
Oh, absolutely. What a wonderful job you have. I mean, hearing you talk about your job just makes us all think, why wasn't I talented enough to do something like that? But oh my goodness, what an incredible job you have, and what a wonderful job you've done thus far. It's been so exciting to see. I'm so glad we finally met, because I've just absolutely adored your stuff on board Viking ships. And now I know who to nag about. Oh, I saw that table. Where did you get that table from? How can I get one?
You can find a way. Absolutely.
You've let yourself in for it now. Richard, thank you so much for joining us. And please give our love and thanks to the whole team there with you. It's been an amazing experience meeting you, and an even more amazing experience actually experiencing your design. So thank you so much. It's been great to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, let me tell you that next week is Australia Week. Gosh, and if you've ever been there, particularly since the 1980s, you'll certainly have heard of and probably got quite a few designs of his hanging in your wardrobe. I'm going to be talking to the Australian artist Ken Doane. Now, I know his paintings and designs and clothes are mega in the US, as well as Australia and just about everywhere else. So I don't know about you, but I've got lots and lots of examples of his stuff, from silk scarves. This is one of his famous paintings that was put on a silk scarf there of Sydney. I've got so many things in wardrobes upstairs, jumpers and everything from sarongs to sketches, and jumpers, as I said, to beach towels made by Ken Doane, designed by him. And when I mentioned his name to everyone here at Viking, so many people agreed. So I thought, how about sending me your pictures of yourself in a Ken Doane sweater or a dress, or perhaps you still have a necklace or eyeglass case, made by him. Let's just see how the man there, Ken Doane, has influenced our holiday wear. So if you can, click on the link on this page, or if you're watching by any other means, go to this link, Viking.TV/submissions. That's Viking.TV/submissions, and upload a photo. I'm asking, do you own a Doane? I'd love to hear from you, and I'm sure Ken himself would love to as well. Oh, and if you want to know more about Viking's expedition ships and what you could experience one day, let's leave you with this.
Viking is ready to explore the polar regions and the Great Lakes in comfort. Our right-sized, purpose-built polar-class vessels, Viking Octantis and Viking Polaris, are designed for expedition voyages. Small enough to navigate remote polar regions, yet large enough to provide superior handling and stability. Delivering the extraordinary expedition experience you should expect from Viking. These are the thinking person's expeditions. Profound voyages of discovery, created for curious travellers. On board, the Explorer's Lounge is an ideal place to sample aquavit, a craft beer, or perhaps Norwegian specialties from Mumsens, a casual gourmet deli named for my grandmother, the Hagen family matriarch, that's also well known for its signature waffles. At the aft is the aquavit bar and terrace, complete with an invigorating indoor to outdoor pool, the Tepidarium, flanked by a caldarium pool on one side and frigidarium on the other. Or head for the Finse Terrace, its comfortable couches and lava rock fire pits, located next door to the expansive Aula Theatre. This stunning panoramic auditorium, inspired by the University of Oslo's famed ceremonial hall, features a retractable 4K laser-projected screen that exposes spectacular 270-degree views from floor to ceiling windows. Home to lectures, daily briefings, science presentations, and films, it's the world's most advanced venue for learning at sea. Exploration beyond our Viking expedition ships is designed to be effortless. To accomplish this key design goal, Viking created the hangar, an industry first. The enclosed marina permits guests to embark watercraft sheltered from the inclement weather. Also overlooking the hangar is the Science Lab, a wet and dry laboratory developed in partnership with the University of Cambridge and Aquaplan Neva, which allows our scientists to conduct meaningful research and encourages guests' interaction. Additional knowledge centres are found throughout both ships, all to provide abundant opportunities for our guests to learn and discover as we explore the far corners of the globe. In the spa, immerse yourself in healthy Scandinavian traditions. From the sauna and snow grotto to a relaxing massage. Or enjoy a Nordic bathing ritual, an invigorating experience, moving from the cold of our snow grotto to a bar the stump, the traditional Norwegian wood-sided hot tub. Dining brings many of the choices that Viking is known for, including Manfredi's for Italian cuisine and a private dining option. The restaurant, our elegant dining venue, the World Cafe for international flavours in casually elegant surroundings, the Aquavit Bar, and Mumson's, as well as 24-hour room service options. In our staterooms, sweeping views are yours from our Nordic balcony. A private sunroom with floor-to-ceiling, distortion-free glass that lowers to create a sheltered alfresco viewing platform. Our expedition vessels have a wide range of staterooms from which to choose, including spacious, elegant explorer suites, as well as the expansive owner's suite, an inviting home away from home, with the most exclusive accommodations and amenities on board. Viking expeditions reveal a breathtaking view of the planet in its purest state. We look forward to welcoming you on board.
Until next week, as we dream of a little Australian sunshine, stay safe and well. Goodbye.